Welcome to Mark My Words, a show that searches for the fork in the road in life, the place where the turning point in the journey of entrepreneurship and life can be found. Let's meet each other at the crossroads on Mark My Words. It's funny how life works out sometimes. It almost really feels like everything happens for a reason. And my guest today is going to talk a lot about that kind of thing. But let me just quickly explain over the past year or so, maybe 2 years, I have really become interested in near death experience stories. And it all started like, I can't even really pinpoint how it started, really, but it started on YouTube. I came across a video somewhere and I was like, wow, that's really interesting. That really speaks to me. And the more stories that I found, the more that I found that it lined up with kind of like what I believe about our lives here and what happens next. And I certainly don't want to turn this into something that it's not, but when I saw that today's guest, Holly Porter, had an NDE, as many folks in the near death experience realm call them, when I saw that she had one and had obviously a really amazing entrepreneurial background, it's like, man, this is a slam dunk for me as a guest, and it's going to satisfy a curiosity because I got to a point where I'm like, should I start an NDE podcast, even though I've never had one? That seems like, not right. But um, today, my guest, Holly Porter, who's the CEO and founder of Holly Porter International. Hopefully, I did, left off the LLC. So she is founder and CEO of Holly Porter International LLC. She has a wealth of knowledge, really amazing experiences. Oh, she's had 11 startups in her career. And I'm going to give Holly a chance to say hello. Welcome to Mark My Words.
Thank you for having me, Mark. Happy to be here today.
Well, I'm real happy to have you here and really happy to not only talk about your NDE story, but also to talk about your path in general. I mean, there's so much that goes into your story, including COVID and just, all your successes. And I really can't wait to talk to you a little bit about everything. And no better way to start than where I usually start, which is at the beginning. And we're obviously living in a different time today. I'm sure not as many people were thinking about entrepreneurship as they are today. And you've been in the entrepreneurial world for a long time. And I know it didn't quite start that way. You went to college as a business major. Were you thinking about entrepreneurship? What did you dream about when you were growing up, leading up to being a professional?
Yeah. Well, I really, when I was younger, just wanted to get married and have a family. And I didn't really think that out. I wasn't a dreamer. Like now, I feel like I have plans, I have dreams because of what's happened. Whereas before, I never had that gut feeling. Well, I had a gut feeling that I wasn't going to live to be very old. So when I ended up in the hospital for so long, I was like, is this it? Like, is this what I thought? Because my intuition's pretty on most of the time. And so growing up, I don't know, I just I felt like I couldn't really see more than 5 years in the future. And everything that I had planned on and did and created in my mind even if it was less than 5 years, always happened. Like I'm a very good manifester. So if I wanted something, oh, don't tell me I can't do it because I'll prove you wrong every single time. If I want something, I will figure out a way. There's just a way to get anything you want if you really want it.
And that really lines up with some of the things I believe because I also not only find that I have a good intuition, but I've also found that if you want to do something in life, you just
Yeah.
gotta apply yourself and go for it. And you may not get the exact result that you want. For
Yeah.
example, before we started recording, I spend my day working in the television industry, but it's not the type of job I thought, oh, I'm going to be on a set or I'm going to be on location or I'm going to be a director or producer and just what you think of, even as somebody in the, who did the major, it's like, they have master control and quality control and all this stuff. Like, never heard of that, but people need to do those jobs, and you just don't think that that's going to, not so much that it's not going to happen, but you never know what's going to happen. But I
Yeah.
made that dream, the bigger picture dream, come true. And if you want to do something, put your mind to it, as we are examples of, you can make it happen.
Yeah. Everything has a significance. Even if you're just the light turner oner, and that's what your job is, to turn that switch on so something works. That could be a game changer for the whole people that you're doing it for, right? And so just don't ever think that, oh, I'm not significant. What I do isn't important. There's always a why behind everything, and figure out that why, and you'll get a lot further faster.
And I've learned that more and more as I've gotten older because for much of my life, I'm like, oh, that's not significant, or just this
Yeah.
little thing, just me being here, it's not
Yep.
significant. No, it may not really stand out. It's not like I'm president of the United States or a CEO or whatever, but
Right.
just you being there sometimes, just saying one thing or just being present and the nonverbals, even, it
Yeah.
can really be meaningful. And
Yeah.
speaking of finding some meaning, either that or this is a bad segue. So you were a business major, but I also see that you attempted to become a cosmetologist as well. Be curious to see what that and some of these certifications where those led you
Yeah.
to.
Well, I never did get a college degree because I didn't really like school. I like learning, but I'm a little bit of a rebel, and I probably could have a doctorate degree for all the education and classes and certifications and everything I've done, but I did what I wanted to, and wanted that I felt I needed to learn, not because of what they told me I needed to learn. So that's just how I was. If I wanted to learn a new skill, then I would do it. And my pattern really followed, especially the entrepreneurial pattern, by having 11 startups. We also raised 8 children, and my baby's 29. So we've got 17 grandkids and 8 adult children. But while they were being raised, I had to focus on an income around children. So some of my companies was a daycare, which I did very well. I made more money than most men in my town by doing that. I had a preschool, and then I had a kids clothing store. So as my kids grew, I changed and shifted what I was doing to accommodate them so that I could be there to support them. And when they played sports, I needed to have some kind of income coming in that I could stop and go and watch the soccer games. Sometimes I had 4 kids playing on 4 different fields in 4 different locations at the same time. That's impossible to be able to attend all of those. And so it was always juggling those things. And I usually had at least 2 companies, up to 4 at a time. So I was juggling that on top of, I'm very service oriented. oriented, love philanthropy. I was part of Rotary International for 14 years, was one of their presidents, did a couple international conferences and projects every year for that 14 years. So I always had that part that mattered to me as much. So lots of time in service and just the change. Like I like change. I'm just one of those people that enjoys that. And so some things I didn't do for a long time. Other things I mean, I've done real estate now for almost 20 years. I had a salon and spa for 19 years and they overlapped a little bit. I'm not like 80 years old or anything. Mind you, I'm old, but not that old. So I would get bored easy. I did get the shiny object syndrome. I've calmed down a lot. I think that really with all that happening, I really think that God is for me, who I believe as my higher power. I believed he had me in the hospital in a coma. I was in a coma about 32 days out of 70 hospital stay. And I just believe now I'm still putting some things together because the COVID fog is real. I have long COVID. There's a lot of things that came after that, but I think I just needed to be set still. And that was the only way he could do it. Like, chill out for a minute so you can figure a few things out. And if I put you in a coma, then you're going to be listening a lot better, right? Because I can't get up and go anywhere. And I feel like that really had to happen. And even the last couple years, there's been some incidences and horrific things, emotionally, especially that happened like in my family. And I look back now that I'm out of that and I'm realizing those were more lessons that I needed to learn for the future responsibility that I was told to do in my NDE, and my coma. Anyway, so yeah, I had out of body, I had a near death, a bunch of out of body, and then a spiritual transformational experience. So all of them were within, I would say, probably the first 3 weeks of the 70-day stay. All of those happened. And I know I was on a ton of drugs, but there's undeniably markers and things that I look back and no, there's no way I would have known these certain things and felt these certain things and been in these certain places. Like there would have been no reason my mind would have created that, right? And so whatever you believe, I mean, some people believe in this, some people don't. Some are curious, some are scared. There's a lot of fear based around it. There's a lot of stories you'll hear that of people that are similar experiences, similarities. And like I shared with you before we got on recording, that I believe people are shown in their experience what they know to be true, what they can believe, what they can comprehend and understand, if that makes sense. I feel like that's why you're gifted what you are. And some people it takes some years to fully understand what's going on. When I went to IANS, which is International Association Near Death Studies, they have a conference every year. And last year I went the first time. And so you're meeting all these people that had all these experiences. And it's very interesting. And they have group talks. And I mean, there's just so many things going on. And I already am a speaker. And so I was hopeful I could speak. I guess it takes a little bit to get picked because there's so many people that apply. And so I was a little bummed when I didn't get picked, but I decided I'm going to go ready anyway with my talk because something will probably happen to somebody and they'll back out and I'll be raising my hand saying, I'm ready. I can go because I do want to share. I didn't share my experience publicly for, I would say, a year and a half. I would say the first year for sure, I was still like putting things together. The COVID fog was very heavy. There just was a lot of missing pieces, even though I had a lot of it. I actually had a hypnosis session last December. We're in July now. So last December, I asked one of my friends that trained me in hypnosis and said, I'm writing a book. There's a lot of pieces missing that I feel like out of integrity, I can't write the book without some of these being filled in. Let's do a hypnosis session and take me back there and let's see if we can fill in some of these gaps. And it was the best thing I did for the whole situation because it was a lot of confirmation for me. There wasn't really confusion before. What it did was just tell more of the rest of the story for me. And so it was I mean, there were so many miracles that happened in that whole story of the whole. Yeah, I got COVID. That's why I was in the hospital that long. It was Delta version. I was intubated twice. I had a trach. I had sepsis. Like you name it, it was against me. There were so many days no one knew if I was going to live or die. People still see me after, it's been a couple years because I do speak, and they'll see me and say, wow, I prayed for you every day. I didn't think you were going to make it. And thank you. Number one, I felt those prayers. I saw those prayers. Actually, I saw those people in one of my visions that I saw. And I'm so grateful that I was gifted that. I was saved because most people didn't come off a ventilator, let alone twice. And I know that the miracles that happened for me and to me were for what I need to do. And I don't want to waste one day. Every day is super important.
You gave me permission to cut you off. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
I did.
that, I mean, really amazing story. And I can't wait to dig into that a little bit more, especially like what led you to that point. But how do you think this profound experience? So, one thing I do agree with you on, I agree with a lot of what you said there. I do agree in the idea of slowing down and being a little more quiet and just what an impact that can have on your soul and your productivity. And gotta imagine with everything going on in your world, how much that time, how valuable that is. But is there anything that you took away from whether it was COVID, sepsis, or the NDE experience that has impacted the way that you live and the way you run your businesses now since then?
Yeah, I feel like a lot changed. For about, so it's been about 2.5 years since I got out of the hospital. And I would say for almost 2 of those years, my whole world turned upside down. You would think, like, for instance, I mean, I love all my children, right? But for some reason, instead of my kids gravitating to me and saying, gosh, mom almost died, let's be there for her. I mean, they're all within 4 hours away from me. Most of them are 45 minutes away, six of them, in fact. So we have lots of family around. I'm from a family of 9 children. There's 8 living. They're all around here. And it was really interesting for me and so emotional. Oh, I cried every day really for 2 years because I just couldn't process, like, why do I feel like everybody in my life is pushing me away when you think they would be like, we almost lost her, let's get her close. It was the exact opposite. And I'll be interested as I have future conversations with people that had similar experiences to see, because a lot of the people I talked to at the conference, it had been anywhere from 5 to 30 years since they've had their experience. So it was really interesting that it was so fresh for me. So I think they've had time to process and put things together, and the whys are coming to them. Where at this point we had some major things happening, with siblings and my children, and just like I felt like the whole world was shook. And I'm not a crier. So for me to be so emotionally, that was another thing I think God did, was in the family situation. It was with some grandkids. And I think he I think he made that decision for me. It ended very badly for my husband and I, broke our hearts. I mean, there were many days I wish I would have died. It was it was worse than dying, trust me. So it was like he made that decision for me because God knew I'd never stop fighting for my family. I mean, Mama Bear is real. It comes out. And I was Grandma Bear in that situation, but these kids were more like my own. And it was like that decision was made for me because I wouldn't have ever stepped away. But I feel like the path had to be cleared so I could do what I was really supposed to be doing, that I was told in my NDE. So which is near death experience, for those that don't understand that acronym. And I felt like it was just a reiteration. It was a little detour, but I felt like I needed that detour because it really solidified some future philanthropy work that I'm going to do, especially in like the foster system and the DCFS system. It's so broken. And so it solidified some things for me to go, wow, what, I have to sacrifice my grandkids to help other kids? Well, maybe that might be my purpose. That sucks. But, I kind of come to grips with now. So things, yeah, everything has changed. Things are a lot better than they were. They've been a lot better for 6 to 8 months now. And I'm a different person. I'm happy regardless. Like, I feel like I'm a happy person. I didn't like some of the cards I was dealt because relationships are everything to me. And so when they were so rocky, that was hard. It was really, really hard.
So what exactly, if you want to share, did the NDE tell you you should do moving forward?
Yeah. Well, I had just started a concept. It wasn't incorporated into a company or anything yet, of a idea. It's a retreat leader platform. So picture, it's a software company, which is called a Saas, software as a service. And so if you picture like an Airbnb and what it does, and then picture, but for retreats, everything is surrounded about retreats. And retreat leaders can be corporate, they can be yoga, they can be business. I mean, you name it, you can do a retreat. They can be men's retreat, women's retreats, health retreats, right? There's just, the possibilities are endless. But there's not really a booking site to go to similar to like an Airbnb, VRBO, to get your venues for that and customized for retreats. And then if you think of an Eventbrite where you go and you can put your events on, there's that piece. If you think about like a membership and then an educational platform where you can go take classes of people, you can find coaches on there. So all those things are going to be incorporated in one platform, which is now 2.5 years later. It is live. We are in phase 1. So we're still doing what you call a raise. So we're raising more money for development. So that idea, just so you kind of know where it went. Back then, it was, I had a pitch deck. I was looking for funding, and I had pitched the day I found out I had COVID. I pitched a billionaire guy's company, and I knew his partner personally, and so I knew they'd want it. I mean, no one doesn't like the idea because there's nothing that exists. It's a $93 billion industry. So I knew I was onto something. And I was told, one of the things I was told, so I pitched them. And then when they wanted a second meeting, I ended up in the hospital, and that was that. Then when I was in, not, I wasn't told this in my NDE, but I was told in my coma on a different experience to not partner with them, that wasn't the highest and best thing to do right now, that it would take me longer, and it has, and that wasn't the route to go. Don't partner with them. So that was very clear to me. The other thing that I was told to do was to start a nonprofit for long COVID. Now, remember, I didn't have long COVID until I got out. No one even knew what COVID was 4 years ago, right? Until 4 years ago. And I had a magazine at the time that I used for like a lead generation for my real estate company. And I wouldn't even let my writers put the word COVID in my magazine. I like didn't want to give it any energy. I was so frustrated and angry, I guess, so to speak, of what was going on. And nobody knew anything. It was just, I never even thought I'd get COVID. Like the fact that I did kind of shocked me. So I was very healthy. But all of a sudden now I'm supposed to go and start a nonprofit for long COVID. And so that was interesting. But I listened, and I was very sick for a lot of months after I got out of the hospital. I mean, I still have health challenges because of it with the long COVID, but like after, I had to learn everything again, breathe, talk, eat, walk, stand up, everything again. You're relearning. I mean, my muscles, everything was jello. I lost 30 pounds in 30 days. So I was deteriorated. I was a mess. I was on oxygen. But within 3 months, I knew I was supposed to do that. So 3 months, I had both companies incorporated, the nonprofit, which is not set up for me to make money on. It was solely just to, the funds basically cover experiences for people that wouldn't be able to do them with long COVID. It's for awareness. And we still need it. There's over 100 million people suffering with long COVID. 100 million. We're never going to run out of people that we can serve. So back to that, I got both those incorporated, and they have been going a lot slower than I'd like. I've had more progress the last 8 months because of all the issues other issues I was dealing with, but it's happening. I know it's supposed to be there. That, like I said, when I had the hypnosis session, that just solidified. That is kind of what lit me back on fire again, because I I saw things in the hypnosis session that I didn't remember from the NDE. And it was just like, oh my gosh, I was doing that already, not even remembering that was part of it. Right. Like, for instance, I have the retreat company has, when we were creating the marketing, I said the logo needed to have a tree in it. Trees are very significant to a lot of things. But when you think about, you know, retreats, like, it just, everything, all the purpose, I was like, I didn't give it a lot of thought. I just knew it needed to be. And when they came back, I love numerology. And when it came back, it had 11 branches and 11 roots on it, which is 1 1 1 1. Well, significantly, my birthday is also 1 1. And there was just so many synchronicities. I can't say the word synchronicities, whatever that word is, that were just solidified. Oh my gosh, I created a logo, not even remember, because when I went back in the hypnosis, that was one of the first things I saw was a tree. It wasn't that tree, mind you, it was a tree. And I was like, the tree's there, and I forgot, and I still created it in this company that I was told to what to do, right? And the second thing that I saw that was very significant in that experience was, there were hearts. Even I ended up in this in between place. So it wasn't the dark and it wasn't the light. That was a big part of it. And somebody that was an entity was keeping me from going to the light, which eventually let me go. But I was in between. And when I got over to the light, there was all this matter that would form. But when it was in the dark, it was like all these colors that I can't even describe it, like cobalt blue and gray, because it wasn't dark, it wasn't black. And they would form hearts, and they would lift over to the left. The left side was the light and the right side was the dark, in my experience. And they would all go to the light. Even though they were dark hearts, they would all go to the light. So when I got over to the light side, the hearts became like a rose pink quartz. And what that meant to me was the nonprofit. I had these, we had a gala for our first fundraiser, and I made these, or had somebody make these hearts that were made out of wood that said hope on them, because that's what we want to really create for people. Everybody needs hope, and especially at that time. And so we created that. And in the bag that they went in for the gala, I had to put a rose quartz heart in everyone. Same thing as the logo of the tree. I didn't give it a lot of thought. I was just like, yeah, that needs to go there. I ordered them. I put them in every single one. And so when I saw it in this hypnosis session, remembering, I was like, oh my gosh, that's why I did that. I didn't know that. That's why I created a tree logo. That's why I put the hearts in the nonprofit stuff. And so what it did, it gave me power to look back and go, you're on the right track. Keep going. You're listening. You're doing it without even knowing. So keep it up.
And one thing that I do want to note, in many of the NDE stories that I've listened to, a lot of people have come back and have started. Seems like nonprofits are a very popular thing, but a lot of people wind up, even if they're not an entrepreneur, they come back and they're like, I'm going to start a business, and their life goes in a totally different direction. It's amazing. And you're
Yeah.
certainly a reflection of that.
Yeah. It really, I mean, I'm still who I was. I am who I am. Definitely was a game changer. Definitely was a life changer. Made me stronger in some things, and made me let go of others, I would say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And I mean, when
And there
you look,
was, oh, sorry, go ahead.
go after you. I'm
I
sorry.
was going to say, so when I know I'm jumping around a little bit because they all kind of go into the near death experience, but like, for instance, when this is the funny part of my out of body. When I did my out of body experiences, I always took my bed with me. So subconsciously, I believe that if I left my body in my bed, I wouldn't get it back. I think there was that fear going on, right? Because why would I take my bed with me, right? So, like jokingly, we have one of the book chapters called Me in My Bed because we traveled in my bed. And I have funny stories about that, lots of them. But the point is, the bed was very significant, right? Because I was trapped there. My sister said I had my surgeries in that room. Everything happened in that room. I never left. And I was like, oh, yes, I did. And I will never believe that I didn't leave that room. I know I left that room many times. But when it came to the near death experience, this was what was interesting. Well, okay, I'll tell you one thing there's just so many things I could tell you. It would take hours, but like a friend later, I was having lunch with her at her house and her husband was there and I didn't know him before, but he dropped off medical supplies while I was in the hospital. That was his job back then. And he said to me when his wife said, this is my friend that was in the hospital for so long. And he's like, oh, I remember. He said, this is kind of morbid, but he said, we were dropping off so many body bags. There were so many body bags going in there. And he said, I remember one day when we were doing that, I knew you were in there. I knew you were my wife's friend. And I just remember kind of saying a little prayer for you because I didn't want to see you coming out in one of these. And he said, it was just sad to think all these being dropped off here, people are coming out not alive, right? And so when I went into the NDE in the beginning, I remember we went in our beds and there were a whole bunch of people dying. Half the people that were in there when I was in the hospital that were dying, and half were not. And we ended up going to this concert. And it was like a big arena where they have the boxes up at the top, and all of the people in the hospital beds, because we went in our beds, everybody went in our beds, they got those boxes because we were in the beds and we were the special ones. But I think now looking back, I think that was the beginning of my near death. And I think everybody that was going with me was dying. Like they were all the people that were dying. And that's why we went all in our beds. And then I don't remember a lot of what happened after that, other than I ended up being out of my bed, out of there. And I remember that was when I was floating and everybody was, I was like looking around and I'm like, nobody's feet are on the ground, so many people. And I relate it to a concert because, and I remember these were the words I said that didn't dawn on me until literally later after I got out of the hospital when my mind cleared a little. I was like, I'm sitting here saying, they sound like angels. I knew it was the best concert ever. I knew the words to every song, but nobody's mouths were moving. Everybody was, joining in and having conversations instantaneously. You could look at someone and you just had a whole conversation. I mean, it was just like that. And I didn't say all those things right away, but it was interesting, the little key words like, they sounded like angels. Well, they were angels, and I just didn't put that all together until later. And my life review, okay, so let me back up. When I had the hypnosis session, I truly believe this too, but my friend said, there'll be more revealed to you when the time is right. Like there's so many things that happen that I know, but I couldn't have emotionally and mentally handled it all. And I believe that to be true, especially after the couple awful years that I had. And so I still think there's more that'll come. And I'm not even like, I'm type person that needs to know everything, but I'm so at peace with that because it's so much already that I feel like, no, when I'm ready for more, I'm going to get more. And that's okay. Because my life review was, I only saw the good. There's tons of bad. Trust me. We all do stupid crap. Right. And so I knew it was there, but I didn't have to see it. And I saw more of that in the hypnosis section going back. And I think that more was because that 2-year period that was so horrible, I think God just knew my heart couldn't take seeing because I feel like we have to feel and we'll have to see the pain we caused people. And what I came away from that was this particular family situation I was in. The pain I was in was the worst pain I had ever felt. And I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, let alone somebody close to me in my family. And so I believe that when people do cause you that pain, they will have to feel that. They will have to go through that. So I was grateful for all of the people I saw and the hugs I saw and the love I saw. The one message I came away with that I think was a little bit different than anyone else and I haven't heard like hundreds of NDEs or anything. I didn't, for a year after I got out of the hospital, I didn't even get on YouTube and look at anybody's, nothing, because I just didn't understand anything, right? I knew what they were, but I don't know. I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I feel like there was so much confusion with the brain, or the brain fog from COVID, that I don't I don't feel my story got tainted by anybody by waiting that year. I feel like, no, then I got it. It was clear. But the hypnosis session made it so much clearer. So I was really, really glad I did that. So I could help remember things. But like I said, I didn't get it all. And I'm okay. I'm at peace with that. But just knowing that word I was told was love them where they're at. And I didn't remember that whole message until we did the hypnosis session, which is really interesting, because if I would have remembered that, it would have probably changed the whole outcome and scenario of the 2 years of awful stuff that I went through, that I needed to learn to help me. And it was those lessons I needed to go through to help me for the future stuff. It would have changed all that outcome. So I feel like things just happen the way they're supposed to. And sometimes we have to go through horrible things. I mean, you think about all the abuse and sex trafficking and all the things, horrible things that are happening. Why does God allow that? And everybody has their free agency to choose, right? And not that people ever would choose that for themselves, but look how strong some people are because of it. I mean, there's just, I still don't understand why bad things happen to good people, right?
Well,
It's just,
some, sometimes you just gotta go through um, bad things and
yes.
struggles and obstacles in order to appreciate when things go well. I mean, I've been through my fair share of stuff in my life, and I think all it's done is just build up a lot of character and wisdom, and it certainly sounds like all the things you've gone through in recent years have not only helped you on a personal level, but it's helped you obviously with your business overall. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's hopefully carved a path that's making things clearer for
Yeah.
you. And I know as I get older, as I make sense of my own life and my own path, I can see why. Like, I'm doing a podcast now, and if you'd asked me 10 years ago if I would have had the guts to do something like this, I'd be like, wow, that would be really cool. But nobody's going to want to listen to me talk or want to watch my videos or anything like that. But, it's obviously not the same kind of experience as you had, but I listened to my intuition, which kind of
Yeah.
brings us back to more towards the beginning when we talked a lot about intuition. You're certainly listening to yours through the NDE experience and just what the world here is actually telling you. And I know personally that if I didn't listen to my intuition, didn't listen to what my gut was telling me, and just listen to all that bad energy that kept getting, thrown at me, we wouldn't
Yeah.
be having this awesome conversation right now. So
Yeah.
suffering sucks, and you don't want to see anybody good suffer. And not saying I'm great or anything. Hopefully, I'm a
Of
decent
course you
person,
are.
but yeah, sometimes everything, much to, I guess, the point of this whole conversation, is that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think you became an entrepreneur for a reason, obviously, just from my perspective, because I feel like I really relate to kind of like that drive that you and so many other entrepreneurs have. You just feel like you're not necessarily falling into that I whatever that thing is that is expected, and I think you know what I'm talking about, and you're kind of like on your own path a little bit. You got your own perspective, and that then we didn't even get into how you really got into starting a business to begin with, but a lot of the other stuff you told me was certainly amazing. I'm like, boy, I don't know if I want to like go back too much because you're really looking forward here. But
Yeah.
I can certainly relate because that part of me is what eventually got me doing all of this, creating content and all that stuff. So you gotta, listen to your intuition. And I think
Right.
those of us that do wind up doing things like podcasts and
Yeah.
11 businesses, which I'm certainly not doing, but I,
I wouldn't recommend it either.
well, that I think before we really like run out of time, we can certainly touch a little more base on your experience because it, and as it should, means the absolute world to you. It's really shaped this new chapter of your life. But
Yeah.
I would be curious to know, and I'll even find a way to tie it into now. How did you exactly get into becoming an entrepreneur? Just having that, I'm guessing that same mindset that maybe I feel like I have, where I just like
Yeah.
I don't really know where exactly I fit, and corporate America, where do I fit? How
Yeah.
did you decide and land on becoming an entrepreneur? And what's the difference between the Holly? I mean, we could probably pretty easily pinpoint the difference, but I'll let you answer. What's the difference between the Holly that started Holly Porter International LLC and the one that came back from the NDE who is doing what they're doing now?
Yeah. Well, I'm more focused now than I've ever been. I'm not only doing one thing. I mean, I still sell real estate. That helps pay my bills, but this software company is my end game. I know it. It's a mean to a better spot to do more philanthropy. I'm building it to scale it to sell it. That's really the goal of it. To do other things that I know I need to do, and the nonprofit as well. I don't think, I mean, it's still so new that people just don't understand that piece of it. But originally, I mean, I talked about kind of the pattern of how I, changed as my kids grew up. I changed different, career paths because not really, I mean, like, the daycare, the preschool, the kids' clothing store, they were all kind of related because that's when my kids were little. And as I got older, and I started the salon and spa. I get bored easy, like I said. So I not only was a hairdresser, I was an instructor, and we had a school for a short period of time. I did hair, skin, and nails. And so I could do, plus I could teach it. I just liked that. That was a good day for me. And then I was doing a lot of service work and things, but my parents were entrepreneurs. So it really was in my blood. Like it was what I knew. And I remember a lot of my friends, their parents had jobs, and nothing's wrong with that. It's just that never really, I mean, I've waitressed. It's not that I haven't worked for people. I um, sold a makeup line, Bare Minerals makeup line in my salon, and that was corporate stuff. And so it seems like every time I try to go that route to think, oh, a secure paycheck would be kind of nice right now, it never worked out. It was almost like I was so overqualified, I couldn't even get an interview. Like it was ridiculous. I'm like, you guys should be begging me to come and be your sales rep for a makeup company that I mean, because I have my esthetician's license, my hair license. And so it was just kind of like, wow. And so it wasn't meant to be. Everything just will happen for a reason. We go through our challenges to learn what we need to know and figure things out. But I will say, I could have never told you until I got out of the hospital really what I felt like my purpose was. I was always doing all these things and I was happy doing all those things because when I wasn't, I would stop and I would focus on something else that made me happy. So it was always, it wasn't that I wasn't a happy person. I just liked the change of everything. After the near death, of course, my health declined rapidly, and that stopped me from a lot of things, right? That I used to be able to do. And I just had to figure out different ways. But I never knew that. Like I was passionate about so many things. And when they say find your why, that would make me so angry because I've spoken, I have books and been all over the world doing all that stuff. So I have friends all over the world. And there'd be people saying, "Oh, I can help you figure that out." If it came up in a conversation where I just never really felt like I had that figured out, no one can tell you that. No one can. They might can help you search that, but it really is a soul searching thing that you've got to figure out what your why is, what makes you happy, what's the purpose of doing things. And so to not ever have that, that was always frustrating for me. Again, I didn't think I'd live to be very old. So I just attributed it to being that maybe the reason, right? I just didn't know. None of us know how many days on the planet we have left at any point in time. We really don't, unless we have a terminal illness and we have a window, right? And then who knows? You can still have miracles. I've had my share of miracles. Everyone deserves miracles. But now I can say without a shadow of doubt, I know I'm supposed to be focused. I know my end game is getting the software company to the world to help and serve so many people and also sell it to do the projects that I want to be the check writer for. That's my goal. I want to just say, I don't need more businesses. I might own them, but I don't want to be running them. I want to just have the right people in the right places and just, what do you need? Write the check. That's really like what my goal is. And the nonprofit, again, just to help and serve. It's the philanthropy piece to the software company. I integrated them the same time. So like when you go to that page, retreatrnr.com, you scroll that first page, it's very clear that that is where we donate money. That's our service, give back philanthropy piece to it. Will it ever change? I don't know. If I get directed that way or told, that that's the route I'm supposed to go, then maybe so. But right now, I know I'm doing the right thing. I know it's progressing slower than I'd like, but there's lessons in that too. And so that really is different for me. Like to know that and okay. And I will also say, I've also had a few naysayers. Like, they always say there's always those naysayers, always those people trying to stop you doing good, whatever. I don't know if I just didn't ever listen before. I would have cared. I care less now about what people say than I used to, but I feel like I'm hearing it a little bit more. So again, it might be because I'm slower and I'm pausing more and I'm listening more. So maybe that's why it's not really stopping me. It's making me more have the emotion of roll eyeing, just going, you don't get it. Not that I'm better than them, just like I know my purpose. So don't mess with me.
So,
Don't be a naysayer. I'm not having it, where is that is kind of my attitude. But
well, from my perspective, I think that's a great attitude, and I will not question you for sure, for one thing. And let me just say, for my whole life, since I can remember, I've had naysayers, and I went through, you said one of my most hated words in that whole time, which is overqualified. Because when I left my job of 10 years, like, oh my gosh, it was almost 10 years ago now, I went through a phase where it's like I'm trying to find a new company and trying to reestablish myself. And I kept hearing, well, you're overqualified. What the heck are you talking about? You don't like, even if I have to start at a lower level, you don't want somebody who has such experience like I do. I mean,
yeah,
I'm really thankful, especially for my current job, because they looked at what I can offer and what I
right.
have to offer. And, it's obviously a great fit for me. And, the word overqualified was never brought up. And I'm really thankful for that. And really, all I could ever ask for in life is to just be given a shot because
Yeah.
since I can remember, people have judged me for, you know, how I talk, how I look. I mean, I was born with a cleft lip and palate. Some other issues came with that, even. And
Yeah.
people have been judging me my whole life. And I know that that's one of the reasons why I am the way I am, as far as just identifying so much with the entrepreneurial spirits that come on this show. And I just, even though I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm still working 9 to 5. And, I do this on the side, but I so relate to that. And I really feel like after all the bad stuff I've been through and just tying in everything else, the intuition, I love to tie everything together here, but I really feel like all of that, all those experiences have given me my why, and just
Right.
the fact that I have the courage to even just push aside the naysayers and say, well,
Yep.
I do have a voice and I do have a lot to say and I can do this. I mean, this isn't
Yeah.
just the long and the short or the beginning and the end of what I want to do. I love to talk to people more and share my experience in life. And that has always been within me. And
Yeah.
doing this show and meeting people like amazing people like you, and getting to throw my 2 cents and my experience in there, it really fulfills me and gives
Yeah.
me my why in addition to what I do during the day. And I mean, that's really like when you find your why, it
Yeah.
really changes your life. And before you always look like you have something to say. But
Yeah.
as we're getting close to the end here, once you say what you have to say, you could tell everybody how they can find you and work with you and just social media, whatever, that would be amazing. So I give the
Yeah.
floor back to you.
Well, first, I just want to say that be proud of yourself because of what you're doing. It's amazing. You didn't let it stop you, your health challenges and your whatever you feel like your, challenges are. Look what you're doing. It's amazing, and you're always going to have value to offer people. And if they don't want to listen, move on. They're not your people. And I think we do all get caught up in what everyone thinks about what we're doing and what we're saying and who we're with. And yeah, it's like high school all over again, which is exhausting. Who wants to live in that
Yes.
space? So just find your people. Sometimes it might not be your family. Maybe you just need a different tribe to be with, and that'll love on you. And I will just say I felt that really strong when I about 10 years ago. I lived in a town just about 45 minutes away, but I ran for political office a couple times. I ran for a city council and a mayoral position, and I didn't win, but I feel like it was the biggest win I ever had in my life. My life literally changed when I moved away, even though it was only 45 minutes away. That's when I started doing so much more personal development. I wrote all my books, I started speaking. It was like instead of being around people that you're pushing yourself on to get your agenda done, now they're gravitating to you. And light attracts light. And I want to be in the light. I want to be where the light is, right? And so I just find your right people. It's okay. I mean, it was the best thing I did was move away, even though it was not that far. It changed me. It just so think of those pivotal moments that have happened to you that changed you. And if it changed you for the worse, well, what movement can you make to change it for the better? And if it changed it for the better, good. Stay on that path and attract the people that you want. What do you want? First of all, you've got to figure that out, right? And nobody can figure it out but you. So listen to you because everyone has their own intuition and it's there. And I always had what I call the gift of knowing. People would say, how do you know that? I just knew things. Like I wasn't psychic or anything. I call it the gift of knowing. And I feel like I still have that. It's probably a little stronger now But when I think something's off, my husband listens to me too. He knows. He's just like, okay, if that's what you think. He never questions my judgment. If we make a decision and I feel like that's the right decision, I got him. So I'm grateful. I hope that somebody's got a couple nuggets from this that maybe will help them in their life. And I hope you continue to keep doing what you're doing, Mark, because you're a world changer, and keep it up. It's great. It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur or not. Maybe you will be someday, maybe you won't. It's okay. We need all people, right?
Right. And I mean, I don't know how much of the world I'm looking to change. I mean, that's that's a very big question, but I think I'm just trying to, provide value. And
Yeah.
really, for me personally, I just want people to know that people like me are out there,
Yeah.
and we are going through very real things that, I mean, I have a lot to be happy about, a lot of things that have been good, but I've had a lot of struggles and a lot of issues that have come up, and a lot of things that I've had to face in order to have such a great life. I have such an awesome job during the day. I feel like this podcast is a real good thing. I have such great guests, and I love doing this show and love having these conversations. And yeah, I
Yeah.
want a lot of listens, downloads, and all of that. But if I can just provide value to anybody who decides to hit play, and
Yeah.
I can get value, I can give that back, and I can just have that good feeling that comes from having this type of conversation. That's
Yeah.
the most valuable thing to me. And I know that might sound like, oh, he doesn't really mean that. No, I really do mean that. And whatever comes out of doing this outside of what I get from it personally is just a total bonus. And before we sign off, if you can tell everybody how they can find you and how they can work with you and anything else
Yeah.
you want to leave with.
Sure. Yeah, because I mean, I do business consulting with people, especially people that feel like they're a little bit stuck and just need some new direction, new ideas. I definitely am an idea person, always have been, but probably even more so now. I just Sometimes people just need to shift and they need to do it quickly. So it's always good to have that. But yeah, my website, hollyporterinternational.com. You can go there. You can do the contact there, or you can send me an email, holly@hollyporter.com. Just my name, HOLLYPORTER is how you spell that. And I'm on all social media platforms. Come follow me, hang out, tell me you heard the show. I'd love that. Yeah, I'm all about relationships, so they're very important to me. So thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I feel like I could have gone another hour or two just listening to you, let alone having a back and forth dialogue here. But I
Yeah, there's a
think,
lot more stories. I'm telling you, I could have you on the ground laughing at some of them. They were pretty wild.
well, as a non NDE person, if I ever do decide to start that NDE podcast, you'll
Yeah,
certainly be one of the first I call. So,
dude, love that.
amazing story.
Thank
Loved hearing it. Glad that you're progressing into a more positive place. And I really wish you all the best and all the healing, and really looking forward to seeing what else you do with your businesses. And yeah, I really hope nothing but the best for you.
Thank you.
So
I do need to put a plug in for the nonprofit. I didn't even say that. It's called Adventure Bucket Wish with the W.org. So adventurebucketwish.org. You can contact me through there as well, but you can donate to it if you want and go check it out and see what we're about. And I'd love that as well. Thanks.
awesome. Yeah, please do donate. I think that is all we have for today. I guess it's time to move on to the material world. So I am Mark Schmidt. This was Holly Porter of Holly CEO, founder, Holly Porter International LLC. So much to her story. Go look her up, check her out, connect, and that's all we got for this episode. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to go on a journey with me into entrepreneurship and life on Mark My Words. If you would like to learn more about me and the show, you can find me on LinkedIn at Mark Schmidt or connect with me on Instagram at Nimrod79. Video episodes of Mark My Words, as well as other content, can also be found on the Mark My Words YouTube page. Entrepreneurship can be quite the roller coaster ride. It can be a bit isolating and intimidating, but it doesn't have to be that way. Let's meet here next time at the crossroads on another episode of Mark My Words.